welcome back. So in the last video, I kind of went through how my trip to Cuba was and different ways that I tried to help the people out there, and kind of told y'all a few things of what I kind of noticed just being out there. There were a few things that I forgot to mention, and I think they're kind of really important. So I wanted to mention it this video. I didn't mention how poor their air quality was in majority of the spaces we were at. Not too sure how our cars' gas conversion is, but with that change that the U.S. made, it did help the air quality here compared to the air quality there. Because they have the older cars, the way that the cars combust, is it combust? The way the cars combust the gas and put it back into the air, it really has like a heavy, it covers their air quality, and it makes it hard to breathe. Like, that affects those people's lungs, and it affects those people's livelihood. That's why I said it's really important, and I forgot to mention that, but that's something that's worth mentioning. Another thing that I didn't really mention was how a lot of the people were concerned about not really having the medication they needed. They did have like different pharmacies that you could walk in, and I didn't walk into it, so I don't really know if you need like a script or anything. But just from assumption, I don't think you need like a script kind of like we do. You can just go there and get what you need. But according to the people, like, they just didn't have enough money to pay for what they needed, or they just didn't have different resources to be able to get exactly what they needed. And that was something they verbally expressed. So that's important. Like I said in the last video, they need help. And if you can help in any kind of way, that's why I'm saying this, because they really do need help. With this video, I told myself I'm gonna try not to say as much as I do in previous videos that I've had, and I'm gonna try not to repeat the same words constantly. Like I kept saying, it was really beautiful, because it really was, but I'm gonna try not to be repetitive. But things that have been taking place for me to make this video, for quite some time now, I've been experiencing like people trying to curse items or curse food or things that I like do on a natural or a day-to-day basis, and make it as if they can have some type of control over me by either speaking about these items or foods, or by, to be honest with you, I really don't know what they do on their end. I could care less, to be honest with you. That's just how much I really have a distaste for the witchcraft that people be doing. But when these things were taking place, it was more so me talking to God, asking like, why are they able to affect me in these types of ways? Like, what am I not doing that's contributing to them being able to speak over something, and then it being in my home without them even ever being in my home to know these things are in my home, or for it to be spoken and then affects me throughout my day-to-day, just because I may have consumed, or I may have who knows? If I might have it in the house or something, like, who knows? But what God was kind of showing me this week, which was really appreciative, it was more so just expressing that even though these people may do these things, it's not saying that it's not a reflection of me, but it's not something that I have to feel like it's something I'm doing wrong in the situation. I don't feel like I said that the best way I can, but that's the way it came out. So I used to, me free, if it was free, come on. Yeah, let me have that. I like free things. I like gifts. I like people thinking of me. I like people wanting to make environments more enjoyable. So when people would pass out like candy or pass out little gifts, to me, it was just that simple of the thought process. Like, oh, these people are trying to do something nice. They've thought of me. Thank you for the gift. But for some reason, God has opened my eyes to what witchcraft is really like and how people do things like this to attach themselves to you or be able to have spiritual access to you. And I didn't know this before. So I was so, open to just receiving from other people just natural gifts that it was like I was just welcoming demonic people in my life without knowing it. And it wasn't on purpose. It was just really because I didn't know. So when I started noticing different ways that these people would affect my life by how, for example, someone wanted to help me take my hair down. When it took place, everything inside of me was like, I don't need you to help me with my hair. But once I started seeing manifestation of witchcraft, it was just like they saw an opportunity and jumped on it. And then people would offer like food, and I would, not trying to be, that person that's, I don't know the right words to say it, but just not trying to be standoffish. I would accept these things, and then sometimes it would be things I like, so it would just be like, oh yeah, you really thought of me. And so I would accept these things, not knowing that some people's intention behind it wasn't always pure. So when I would accept these gifts and I started noticing different things taking place spiritually, it was like, oh, you have to protect yourself in this type of way. Like beforehand, even if it was taking place, God was covering me enough to where it wasn't affecting me to the point where he wanted me to pay attention to it. So when it started taking place to the point that he wanted me to pay attention to it, he really showed me how if you're not watchful, like the scriptures say to be watchful, if you're not watchful of these things, people can try to have spiritual access to you in this demonic way by being perverted in their thought process, not even you being the person that's accepting it in a demonic way. Again, I hope I said that the best way it was meant. So again, I'm talking to God about these things because, like, again, I wasn't understanding. Like, I honestly, when things like this take place, I don't start looking at other people. I look at myself and I ask God, like, what are you trying to get me to learn from these things? So when it was taking place, it was just like, God, I feel like that's bondage. I don't want to be in that type of bondage. I don't want to have to think about everybody in a cautious way. Like, I don't want to have to live my life thinking that, oh, if this person offers me a gift, that it's automatically demonic, or them trying to be demonic towards me. Like, who wants to live in bondage like that? So God was telling me that, well, I started reading the word, and it started going to the scriptures that were more so like, you are free where you don't have to think of things in this way because of your relationship with me. But you still need to know that there is another side that does these things, so that you know how to speak to me about covering you through these things while people are trying to have it take place. And again, like, it probably has always been happening, but it was new for me for the understanding of it. Like, my mom literally has told me different things about, like, just people with hair. And I just thought she was just being, look, I don't, what's the old wise tales? I thought she was just being superstitious. Like, these are things I thought she just was, I don't know. I thought that was her thing she had to work out. I didn't take that burden on myself. But when I started seeing these things, it was like, okay, I understand why she would say this. I understand why she would do that. Like, I wish she had the freedom that I feel with God, to not have to feel bound like that. So the Bible verse that kind of helped me to understand that I am truly free, even though these things have taken place. God has literally shown me that there's people that are like this and trying to do things like this to his children, but that I don't have to feel bound to their demonicness. First, it was 1 Corinthians 10:23 through 33. It says, I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. Eat anything sold in the meat market without raising questions of conscience, for the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. If an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, eat whatever is put before you without raising questions of conscience. But if someone says to you, this has been offered in sacrifice, then do not eat it, both for the sake of the one who told you and for the sake of conscience. I am referring to the other person's conscience, not yours. For why is my freedom being judged by another's conscience? If I take part in the meal with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of something I thank God for? So whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jew, Greek, or the church of God, even as I try to please everyone in every way. For I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved. So how that gave me freedom was, even though there are people out there actively doing these things, but because they're actively doing it doesn't mean that I have to walk out my life being super cautious or always afraid of someone trying to bewitch me. Like, God gave me the freedom not to feel that way, because everything that I'm doing in the glory of God. Like, I'm walking out my life feeling like I'm fulfilling what he has brought me here to do. So to walk out things that's not of him would be contradictory to who he is. So because of that, when I don't know how long people been around or how long they've been walking or watching or been listening to things that I say that I feel really are from God. But like I've said before, when I was walking with God before allowing people to view how I walk with God, like, these are just things that we did. Like, I was living my life, doing what God, would put on my heart, and we would just live a merry, happy-go-lucky, like, I wasn't bound by anything. So when people started being able to view my relationship with God in a different light, it was just like a lot of, I don't even want to say bondage, but like, knowing someone's watching how you move makes you move differently, because it's just like you're going to be scrutinized by everything you do. Hearing people talk about everything you do or have an opinion about everything you do makes you move a little more cautiously. But before that, when it was just literally me and God just walking out my life, it was just like I was carefree. All my burdens literally was on him. I wasn't living as if I needed to watch this or be mindful of that, because I gave it to God. So I'm just like a kid who feels protected by their parent, is just living. So when these things started taking place, it was just like, God, what is that? Why are they able to do these things? And it was just like him letting me know that I've been covering you through this. Like, because you feel so loved and protected by me, I've put a veil over you so that you don't see these things are taking place, because I've already gone forth to deliver you from anything that these people feel like they can or think that they're able to do. Right now, I'm allowing you to see it so that you can express it to people that's going through it, so that they know that it's not me, but I'm allowing it to help you see how much I love you. So one thing I noticed when I was in Cuba was the people there really respect their leadership figures or people in authority. And for me, when I would hear them kind of express in different ways they felt oppressed, I didn't understand how they could still be so honorable to what I felt like was giving them or making them oppressed. But what God allowed me to see in that situation was just how he expects us to still honor people, even though we feel like they don't deserve the honoring. And I pray I say this the way I mean it. These people, even though, like, in certain situations you can see how they're being oppressed, their spirit man doesn't allow them to complain or grumble in a way that a person that has different freedoms will, I guess, freedom of speech. So like how we have freedom of speech, we can express how much we may distastefully feel about something, even though we may not feel like we can do anything about it. But us still expressing how we feel about it, in a sense, makes us feel better, or makes us feel like, at least we got that out. But for these people, it's like, even if they feel this way, they might not be able to express it, but not dishonoring the people that are putting them in this place is the reason why God is honoring them in different ways. So the reason why they're so kind-hearted, the reason why they're so gifted in arts, the reason why they are being able to survive in unfavorable conditions is because that is how God is honoring them, by honoring the circumstance that he has them in for now. Like, even though they may not seem like even though they seem like they're in bondage and oppressed, God can turn anything around. So it's like, because they're doing their part right now, it's just the beginning for what God is able to do through them, because of the honor that they show in such an unfavorable situation. So I wrote down a Bible verse that, while I was preparing for this, I felt makes sense. But let me read it to make sure. Let me make sure it do make sense for what I'm saying, because some topics are heavier than others, and my goal is not to confuse anyone with how I say things because of what the topic is. Like, the goal is not to talk bad about people that God has placed over different people, but the lesson in it is really honoring people for the position God has placed them in. Like, there are people in my life that I just feel like don't show up the way that they need to, or don't show up the way that I feel like God would want them to, as the people that he's placed as different people in my life. But because of God, I don't dishonor them, or I try my hardest not to speak how I feel, because God has literally showed me. I've done it before, and he showed me how it can, how he showed me, basically, he showed me why not to. Like, even though I may have felt the way I felt, and it may have been valid, but because he said not to do it is a reason why it shouldn't have been done. Okay, here's the Bible verse. I'm gonna read it and then let God do what God does. So, it was First Peter. It's fairly long, but it is First Peter 2:11 through 25, and then 3:1 through 7. It says, "Dear friend, I urge you as foreigners and exiles to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that, though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority, or the governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong, to commend those who do right. For it is God's will that by doing good you should listen to the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as God's slaves. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. Slaves, in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. For it is commendable if someone bears up under the pain of unjust suffering because they are conscious of God. But how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. To this you were called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow his steps. He committed no sin, and no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. But by his wounds you have been healed. For you were like sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. Wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husband, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. When they see the purity and reverence of your lives, your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husband, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. You are daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. So, like I said, just the nature of those people and how they just showed up for the person in authority over them was just like, it was different to see, and it was a lesson for me because God has shown me in different ways that I've dishonored people that he felt that I needed to honor, that he's mandated for me to honor. And he showed me the opposite of what being really submissive and living in humility is really like when it comes to unfavorable circumstances. Like, he showed me that through them, he's going to show how he blesses a people just from being in a submissive, humble heart posture. So, another thing that I'm going to say bother, because it really has kind of been bothering me. But what bothers me is how the enemy wants to be God so bad that he's taking things of God, trying to flip it or pervert it to make it seem like it's him. And God having to come back and show how, even though the enemy think he has a plan, how God has already worked his plan over that plan. And I was, again, talking to God about just being irritated of how different people are able to do different things, when I'm just like, God, you're God. Like, why even let these people do these things? Like, just why? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of all this? What is the purpose? So, how he was kind of helping me through that was he was pointing me back to Jesus and just showing me how we're just like Jesus as far as being the physical representation of what he has already set forth and planned for our lives. So because he's already worked it out to work in our favor for our good, he's showed us an example through Christ on how it's already worked out. And then he's already showed us how in the past Christ was already there, and in those same situations, it was worked out to bring it all together in the future. So he was showing me how it was taking place. Things from the past were affecting today, but God was showing me how things from the past took place to change what takes place today, to show how God is already way ahead and doing things for our good for the future. So it's like the past, the present, and the future coexisting or taking place at the same time, but just showing up as what it is for all of the situations. How he was showing me that, so there's references in the Old Testament about Jesus and what Jesus was going to do, and how Jesus was still present in the Old Testament, even though he wasn't there in a physical form. Kind of. And then how Jesus was physically present, talking about things that were said in the past about him being in that moment, and how the things that are taking place now are going to affect or help the future. So God was ministering me through that, basically saying that I've told you, Jesus came here, told you these things, so that while these things are taking place now, you can have peace in him, because that's why he came, to be able to help you through what is taking place now, and to know that I've already set forth a plan to deliver y'all through this for the future. Like, it's already done. We're just living through what's already done. The same thing Jesus had to do. He was living through what was already done, but he still had to live through it. So it's the same thing with us. Like, he was the first so that we can understand why we're doing it now. So, examples of what's taking place right now is not really coming to mind to explain that better. But I'm going to just read scriptures, because God gave me scriptures to explain it. I'm going to just read the scriptures. So, what was taking place in the Old Testament that he kind of had me think about this was the book of Daniel. So what mainly had me thinking about it was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego being in the fiery furnace. But even before that, like, the scripture he pointed me to was Daniel in the lion's den. And in both situations, what took place is God was showing me how in that whole book, there was mention of sorcery, there was mention of astrologers, idols, worshiping other gods or bowing down to other gods, and people snitching on people. Like, it literally was people snitching on people. Anyway, so what took place was people were so upset with Daniel and I'm gonna just say Jews because it was saying Jews in the text. People were so upset with them just walking out their walk with God that they were trying to format ways to get them caught up to be in the wrong. And it was just like, that's taking place today with, I don't want to get into the specifics, but if you know, you know, like that's taking place today. There are literally people going out their way to try to make you be not like the person that God is trying to at least create you to be. Like, you really out here striving, trying to be the godly woman or godly man, but it's people going out their way to try to make situations so that you show up less of what God is trying to make you be or trying to help you portray out into the world to be. So Daniel, when they set up a plan and went to the king at that time and was like, set this mandate in place that people have to bow down and worship only you and not their God. And the king liked Daniel. So it was just like, he was upset that he couldn't help Daniel, but it was still just like a puffed up pride thing because he allowed the people to get into his ear to make him mandate something that, like, what was the point of that? Like, why did they have to only bow down to him and denounce their gods? Like, they was all coexisting just fine and still helping build up whatever kingdom the king had at that time. But because the people wanted to nitpick with God's children, they went and created something out of nothing just to try to harm one of God's children. So Daniel continued doing what Daniel does. Like, even Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, in their section of it, they just were like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm gonna serve my God despite what you talking about, despite what y'all got going on, despite all of this extraness. Like, that's my God. Like, I know what my God does for me. Like, you gonna do whatever you gotta do, you gonna do it, just do it. But I'm gonna still serve my God because my God's gonna deliver me through these things because that's my God. That's what he does. And so these people went out their ways to create situations to have these people placed in unfavorable situations. And God delivered them each time. So how it is where Jesus showed up in the past for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they ended up being thrown into a fiery furnace because they didn't want to bow down to idols. And they boldly stated that they were not going to. And because of this boldness, it made that king at that time upset and felt like he wanted to place them in a fiery furnace and turn the furnace up even higher because he was upset because of that prideful thing again. So there's people who have different lifestyles that don't believe in the God that I believe in. They don't serve the God that I serve. So because I'm bold in my faith, you bold in your witchcraft, you want to test the God that I believe in out of pride of what you got going on. And it was just like, it's the same stuff happening now that was happening then. And God's just like, I delivered them then, but the people now still don't believe, but I'm going to show them I'm that same God. Like, I haven't changed. Like, I am that same God. I'm still going to show you the same thing that I've been trying to tell y'all way back then to stop about. Y'all don't want to stop now, and still trying to put his people in bondage over stuff that he's showed y'all time and time again that it's not going to work. So what took place was, it says, then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men that were tied up and threw into the fire? They replied, certainly, your majesty. He said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound, unharmed, and the fourth looks like, and the fourth looks like a son of the gods. That is Daniel 3:24-25. Like, Jesus was still in his time pleading his case against people that was stuck in a prideful manner then too. So what he was showing me was that even though we're going through these things, it is for us. It's the refinement of us to make us understand why God does things the way he does, and to make us understand how to show up as the people that he's created us to show up to be in an unfavorable place that we are right now. Like, we're still living out our time and what God has brought us here for, in situations where there are people that just don't want to believe who he is. So he's showing us as people how to live through this, but still using us for his purpose, and still showing how what he's already done is just fulfilling what he's already said to fulfill what he's already gonna do. So that had me thinking about John, because again, it had me thinking about Jesus. So Jesus in John 10 said, it's John 10, verse 22-42. Then came the festival of dedication at Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was in the temple courts, walking in Solomon's colonnade. The Jews who were there gathered around him, saying, how long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly. Jesus answered, I did tell you, but you did not believe. The works I do in my Father's name testify about me. But you do not believe because you are not my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. I give them eternal life and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all. No one can snatch them out my Father's hand. I and the Father are one. Again, his Jewish opponents picked up stones to stone him. But Jesus said to them, I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of these do you stone me? We are not stoning you for any good works, they replied, but for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I have said you are gods? If he called them gods to whom the word of God came, and the scriptures cannot be set aside, what about the one whom the Father set apart as his very own and sent into the world? Why then do you accuse me of blasphemy because I said I am God's son? Do not believe me unless I do the works of my Father. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works that you may know that you may now and understand that the Father is in me and I in the Father. Again, they tried to seize him, but he escaped their grasp. Okay, I guess I did go all the way to the end. We'll go to the end. Then Jesus went to the Then Jesus went back across the Jordan to the place where John had been baptized in the early days. There he stayed, and many people came to him. They said, though John never performed a sign, all that John said about this man was true. And in the place many in that place many believed in Jesus. So Jesus was in his time trying to defend himself by explaining to people that were supposed to understand or hear from God themselves and know that he was just fulfilling what God has asked him to do while he was here. But because they were so stuck in the laws or the ways that they understood things, they couldn't accept what God was doing through Jesus in their time. And Jesus basically was telling them, like, you don't understand because God didn't send me here for you to understand. Like, what God has been trying to help me understand is this whole oneness. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like people feeling like they can speak a thing over me and it happens and God allows it. I don't like it. I don't like it. But what God is trying to help me through is understanding that some things he does for what he has planned to combat what the enemy is trying to do, so that it still works out for my good and for his glory. So how that's taking place with these scriptures is just like Jesus kept saying he's one with the Father, and they couldn't understand that. He even dropped it down to he's God's son, and they still didn't want to accept that. So there's a lot of people that don't want to, or they can't understand how Jesus is the representation or the manifestation of God in the flesh. And the whole purpose of him being here in the flesh is to save the people even before him and the people after him, to be redeemed, to be able to blot out sin so that we can go to a holy Father blemishless. Instead of doing all these sacrifices and it's another if you know you know situation.